Now, before you start this video, it's important to note that these videos are intended for insight, perspective, educational purposes, and everything garnered here was out of personal research. So some opinions may differ. Not everything here should be taken as factual, and it's information garnered to research. So I'd encourage you to also do your personal research. The main aim of this is to educate the viewers and grant them insight so they may find useful perspectives for starting their business or managing the already existing business. Now, scientific management is said to have been the start of the new modern age of management, what people call the new modern age of management, and it deals primarily with a focus not on individuals before systems, but on developing the right system that will produce top quality individuals and create a sustainable structure for your organization. Now, by individuals, we are referring to the general belief that was had that companies needed people who were already trained and had the experience and knew what to do, as against employing someone and putting them in the role and training them to accomplish what the role needs them to accomplish. So when we talk about being individual focused, we are talking about the fact that companies then, or individuals who were employing, were looking for that person that had already been trained and had the qualities needed to play the role they were assigned to. Now, in this case, there was no room for training necessarily, and the people were expected to just come in and perform. So, say you're employing someone for customer service, instead of training the individual and working with your historical data on what questions are asked, what answers are given, etc., they just employ someone and place them in the role and say, okay, perform. So that is an individual focused approach. The argument some people make when discussing this practice is they refer to some developing countries whereby you have situations whereby individuals are not properly trained and in their roles. So it takes them about 4 or 5 years to get used to whatever role they are in. So, for example, with the customer service reference you are given, for some developing countries, due to the large informal sector, you have people who employ, say they employ at a center or where you need to make calls, say it's a delivery company with about 2 motorbikes. They don't train the person to say, okay, these are questions that are often asked, so this is the answer you have to give. They don't necessarily educate them as much on the role, so they spend maybe 2 3 years getting accustomed or acclimatizing to the role, and then more often than not they leave. Then you get a replacement and the process starts all over again, and that hinders growth. You may have situations whereby someone who's already experienced just comes in and slots into the role, but that example was in reference to whereby the person has no or very little experience, or where he or she worked is in a totally different environment with different approaches and different difficulties and different challenges. Then that becomes a learning process all over again, as against when you have a system whereby you know what the role entails, what the questions entail, and you have a training period you give, say, your employees. Then they come in, they train, they have a better idea of what they are going to do before they do it. And one thing of perspective is when you kind of know what to expect or have an idea of the environment you are in, it makes taking in things and working and being productive and understanding what's going on much easier. So with scientific management, the argument is not that you do not need to employ top quality workers. It's the belief that ordinary workers, in quotes, in a well-structured environment can outperform top quality workers in an environment that is not properly structured. If we are to argue about the goals in relation to scientific management, we'd say that one, it's to obtain high income for stakeholders and develop the organization to the highest quality, and two, to provide high wages, which is a goal of the management approach, and equip workers to perform at the highest level. Now, for a startup, you may not be able to afford paying workers more than the competition necessarily, but the aim of this video is to, again, provide perspective on what this is, and hopefully we get something from it we can use in our startup or project, or just for insight perspective purposes. Overall, the general argument made by scientific management is that with this approach, it's more difficult for the company to, let's say, fall apart from within, and it requires external factors to impact on growth and sustainability, etc. And it's a safer and more well-grounded approach to managing a business as against just looking for the right person for the role, which is the individual before system approach.